Humidus podcast.
Welcome, you beautiful bastards, to the Humidus podcast once more. With me, your Sir Hammer, and the benevolent, the all-knowing, the always so crispy and happy
Steph. And that's
Hello, Steph. Yeah, that's it. Today we're straight to the point. Yo.
We're so on the point. We're already on it.
Why don't you introduce today's episode?
So, today, we're back from a small hiatus. We actually took some time to bring our content up on other platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, and such. Hopefully, we can get it to iTunes sometime as well. So please make sure to check that out if you prefer to listen to our lovely voices and our highly educated opinions when you are working out, in the car, commuting, anything you like, where you don't, because now you don't actually have to watch a video anymore. You can actually listen and close your phone while doing it as well. So yeah.
You don't need to have YouTube Premium.
Yeah. But then again, so it's a new era. It's a new step up for us. And
because we know that you purchased YouTube Premium to listen to us in the car, you know.
Yeah, of course.
We know you did.
I mean, I did.
I actually got it. You know, so yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I do have it.
Okay. I think you're the first one I know that has YouTube Premium. That's interesting.
Do you know how fucking nice it is to have YouTube Premium?
I can kind of imagine, but I just never considered it.
Okay, so for me, it was like one of my buddies. He was like, "You gotta buy it. It's insane." And I was like, "Yeah, just could be able to download YouTube videos and close your phone. Is that worth it?" And yeah, it's fucking worth it. Okay, it's so fucking nice to be able to do that.
What about ads?
Now, yeah, the things. I mean, I download YouTube videos and listen to them while I'm commuting.
But what about ads? Are the ads still there?
There are no ads. Okay. Or the in-video sponsored bullshit, of course, is there, but
yeah, but it doesn't cut. And yeah, okay, all right, maybe I'll check it out. Anywho,
yeah,
over to today's content. So today we're going to introduce a new segment from the indie jungle, where we will weekly try to
in between
yeah,
the trees,
yeah,
the vines.
It's still we'll have a title by the time this goes up. But anyway, so we'll talk about a indie game, whether old or new, and we'll try and do one title each week, because I know Hammer here has like a whole fucking librarium filled with absolute gems. Some of them you might know, some of them you might not, and hopefully you'll discover something new and realize, and also like get to know why we enjoy it so much. So today, I'm going to talk about a new one that I discovered this day, and I downloaded it like literally 3 hours before the podcast and fired it up after seeing a video. And it's Gunfire Reborn. So I'll get to that in a second. And after that, we'll return with the normal nostalgia corner today, talking about kind of like it's slightly underground title, I guess. Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. It's such an underappreciated game. So look forward to that.
And a game that we both, or was it? I was the one recommending it to you.
No, not for this one.
Did
this one I found.
No, okay, you found it. Okay, so yeah, so then we kind of happen upon it independently, I guess.
Yeah, this one I found. When was that? Probably when it was still quite new, because it was featured in a like a PC magazine. That I think was like PC Gaming World or something. That one that was published here in Norway a while back, and I mean, it looked so cool and it sounded so cool, and I finally got a hold of the demo. I loved that to death, even though my PC could barely scrape it together at that time. and
Yeah.
later on I
Yeah.
actually got the full title, and it was so good.
Look, yeah, that's later in the podcast. But first, we're gonna do the indie segment,
Yes.
uh, and we're gonna have a little intro intro jingle. Are you
Um,
ready?
yeah.
Okay, here it comes from the indie jungle. Okay,
Oh man.
take it away, Steph.
Yeah. How do I top that? Uh,
I don't think you can. That's not
no.
possible. So
I,
just try to do whatever you know.
as you can tell, we pride ourselves on our high production values and
This is expensive shit. Okay, this is Hollywood-esque style production.
hi-fi quality.
Oh
So,
yeah.
anyway, so today, like I said, we're going to talk about Gunfire Reborn, which is, according to Steam, it's adventure level based game featured with FPS, roguelite, and RPG elements. And I guess that's a good kind of simple summary of it because it blends kind of a little bit of the looting and the aesthetic from the aesthetic from Overwatch, or like an
Hmm.
Overwatch a game similar to Overwatch, like those hero shooters, and like something from Blizzard. But then it also
Okay.
has kind of like the same gameplay, a similar gameplay loop to Risk of Rain,
Mm.
and like the gunplay also kind of feels like Borderlands, I'd say.
Hmm. Hmm. So it is like it's an FPS with you start on a level and progress, you know, from level to level or in
Yeah,
co-op.
like you run kind of like a gauntlet almost, where you have
Uh-huh.
such and such amount of stages, and it ends in a boss fight, and you have two heroes to choose from, but at the first, like you start with only one, which is
Hmm.
this cat dude. Everything here is like anthropomorphic animals in this kind of like
Yeah.
sort of mythical Chinese, sort of steampunky, kind of unique vibe going for it.
Yeah.
And
But it yeah, is it it's like a little bit cell shaded or cartoony, the graphics, right?
yeah,
I'm
very,
looking at it here.
yeah,
Yeah, right.
absolutely. And it's also very simplistic in its design while also looking
Mm.
very appealing. And the good thing about that is that it runs butter smooth, even though it's in early access.
Mm.
And
That's important.
yeah, it is. And it's also quite challenging, I'd say, because
Yeah.
I mean, so far, I mean, I only tried it for like 2 hours. So, and it's a roguelike, so you have to expect some difficulty. But you
Mm.
start off with this one standard weapon, which is like it's sort of like a very heavy revolver, and then that one has like neutral damage and infinite ammo. So you always have that one
Mhm.
to fall back on. And in addition, you have two weapons that you can, like two weapon slots, and you find
Okay.
weapons like in the level, but you'll only have it for that gauntlet run. And
Okay. You
yeah,
lose it if you die or
yeah. So every time you start a new run, you go back to that revolver, and
right.
you have to just pick up stuff as you go along.
Are there like more permanent upgrades though
Yeah,
through like in between runs? Okay.
yeah. So by killing enemies and such, you earn something called like soul essence, which is like you can. That's what you use to progress in a skill tree with
Mm.
permanent stat upgrades. So that's the level of permanence here. But then you can also spend it to, like, let's say, revive once um, during
Mm.
a run,
Uh-huh.
and such and such, and then like in the actual run itself, you also have coins which you use to you buy either upgrades or weapons or like supplies from vendors that you meet like randomly.
Mhm.
But that's also just for that run, so of course that disappears. And also for each room you clear, you will find a chest which has like an upgrade that is also particular to that run, but then it can
Mm.
either upgrade your special ability, your elemental damage towards like a certain element, or I mean, it caters to like a specific kind of playstyle, and they encourage you to mix and match to create like an impromptu build.
Yeah, right. But elements, where do elements come in? Is that like magic, or do you have it elemental damage from the weapon, or
It's almost directly copied from Borderlands. So
okay.
you have like the corrosive equivalent, you have the fire equivalent, you have the shock equivalent, and
Yeah.
just like Borderlands, you have enemies that have shields with a blue,
Hmm.
which is indicated by a blue bar on top of the red one, right?
Mm,
And of
yeah.
course, like in Borderlands, they are susceptible to shock weapons.
Mm,
And same for armor, which is by yellow bar here, such as in Borderlands, and they are
mm.
susceptible to corrosive, or in this case,
All
poison,
right.
I think.
Yeah.
And unarmored and unshielded targets are more vulnerable to fire. So
Right.
that's
Yeah.
how it works. It's like exactly the same as Borderlands, but it works. I mean, they couldn't have chosen a more solid system for that, in my opinion. It works great for its intended purpose.
Yeah. So you would recommend it wholeheartedly?
Oh, dude, this game is great. Um, and you can play it up to 4-player co-op, which it
Yeah.
scales as well. And I still
But
haven't
is it?
tried the other hero, but well, the one like
Mm,
the first hero, the cat guy, I don't remember his name, but
mhm,
it's some Chinese name. But his abilities is shooting at an orb, which kind of locks people in place, kind of like
mhm,
the Siren from Borderlands 2, I believe. And then they take more damage from gunfire and such and such.
mm,
And then you have like grenades that can also be upgraded. And then the dog character
mhm.
has the essentially the Gunzerker ability from Borderlands
Right.
2. So you can dual wield
Right.
weapons instead of switching between.
Understand. Okay. And they're probably gonna introduce like a larger ensemble of characters when it
Yeah.
launches.
Hopefully, yeah. And the only thing that I'm a little bit worried about is that are they gonna do microtransactions for this? Because as of recording, there's no microtransactions at all. It's just
No.
you pay $8 ish, and that's it. You have the whole game like as it is.
But but what do you reckon? Is the game like designed for microtransactions, or do you think it's like more grindy and
It's definitely grindy. So I think that's gonna,
yeah?
as it is now, you cannot max this game out in one day. That's for sure. It's gonna take you a long
No.
time, which is
And
good.
I'm not, yeah, I'm not saying that that is not like excluding microtransactions in the
No, no,
future,
no. But
but you can also kind of infer what they're going for. Sometimes there are like some itemization or something that gives away that little.
yeah,
Oh yeah, you're probably gonna unlock this. Behind something.
I mean, I could see a potential for where they could introduce microtransactions, which is like
Hmm.
as of right now, since the game is very new. I think it launched on May 22nd into early access, and
Yeah, 23rd.
there's only two heroes, but it's up to four playable, or like playable by up to four people.
Yeah,
So, and there's no, as far as I know, there's no skins. It's just the
no,
default skins. Maybe it changes like slightly color when you have other players there. I haven't tried that
right,
yet,
right.
but there's no like. I mean, you can easily introduce cosmetics here,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
maybe additional characters like the battle pass that they did in Apex. I'm not trying to give them ideas. I hope they just introduce it so it's just grindable. Because
Yeah,
the
please
current
don't.
character, the dog guy, is actually just maybe you grind for a few hours and you have him.
Okay.
He unlocks at
Yeah.
like level 30 or something. So
It does seem really promising, and
yeah,
it looks great. It's really, really cheap. So if you guys want to just pick it up, it's still in early access, and like you said, Steph, it's really playable. No, game breaking bugs or crashes that you've experienced.
no, I haven't had any trouble with it so far. It runs really smooth. I mean, of course, there's some balancing issues. I think because I've seen some gameplay of the people using the dog character with the gun zerking, so to speak, the dual
Mm,
wielding and stuff.
yeah,
And there's some stuff you can do with that looks kind of broken.
yeah, right.
Other times there are some severe difficulty spikes, and this like experienced myself as well. But I guess that's also playing into the whole randomized roguelite element. Like sometimes you just
Yeah,
get fucked by RNG.
that can be the case. You have to when it's random, you can't really balance it 100%. So sometimes when you're lucky, you'll just fucking own.
Yeah, So it's going to be interesting to see how the development goes. But I just feel like this game deserves a lot of attention, and I literally hadn't heard about it until G Man Lives put up the video just before,
Yeah, it
and
looks.
then
I
yeah,
mean, it's rated overwhelmingly positive on Steam, like 712 reviews,
yeah,
and it launched 1 week ago. Like, that's pretty. That's pretty good.
yeah, and
It's a good start.
yeah, because I think he also posted his review on Steam in the comments here as well.
Oh,
So that also helped bring some
nice.
attention to it, as far as I know.
Yeah, yeah, probably did. It probably really pushed it.
So in any case, $8, or yeah, it should be around there, and maybe it's $10. I'm not sure what it is in USD, but it's not a big investment. So if you're
Mm,
itching for something to play, as you probably do in these pandemic times, I'd say go
mhm.
for this one. It looks really promising, and I really liked
Yeah,
it
it
so
does.
far.
Yeah, it looks really nice. So that's it for the like indie game segment of today. We're hoping to continue this, doing it maybe every episode. I don't know. What do you think, Steph? Should we do it every episode?
Either that or we do once per week where we kind of go more in depth, because this one I haven't tried that much yet. But if we go from
No.
your library, I'm sure you have a lot of stories for each of the games, right? So it would be
Yeah,
fun to kind of have this kind of
but we can play this though and kind of update you guys if you want to.
yeah. We can bring you some from stories from the battlefield later on, some co-op stories like when we played Green Hell.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and died. Yeah. So let's go on to the next segment. Nostalgia corner. Okay, so Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. What
What
a
a
game!
game!
What a yeah! What a That's really an unpolished diamond or gem, if you will.
I mean, heavy emphasis on the unpolished here, because the game is also horribly broken. But it's
Yeah, it is, but it's really really fun to
mm,
play, and it was like a game that you just, yeah, this looks cool, and it really really took you by surprise. It was so, you could do so much in the game. So let's just lay down the premise of the game. It's called
yeah,
Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. It is a game in the Might and Magic series. I wouldn't say that it's not really story dependent or dependent upon any of the other kind of games at all.
not at all.
Uh, it's like it's orcs and wizards, and yeah, it's not really Might and Magic. You don't get that special Might and Magic feel. Uh, I don't feel at all, because it's like a more like a first person shooter game,
Yeah, or yeah,
um, with like heavy emphasis on RPG elements, of course.
and melee
Yeah,
combat.
and melee. Yeah, and it's like, uh, it's a first person without the shooting exclusivity, because you have a lot of options for kind of dealing with your enemies here.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of like how you would. I think this was one of the pioneers, or like one of those first games that really nailed a good first-person melee combat system.
yeah, yeah. It was a little bit clunky though, but it was cool. It was so cool.
Yeah, and it was
You had
a lot of
so
fun.
Yeah, you had so many possibilities. You could really brawl it out, or you could trick your enemies.
Yeah,
Uh, but it was a Source Engine game,
yeah.
so you get the familiar kind of Source Engine look, but it was really really high polish in the graphics department. I
Oh
I
yeah.
think for the time, so it was, especially the lighting and stuff like that, was really really good.
Some of it arguably holds up today, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, totally. You could still play this game and you would feel like, okay, this is an old game, but you could totally kind of enjoy the what it has to offer, I feel.
Oh yeah,
Um, and it was Arcane Studios who made it, and they are also responsible for the Dishonored
yeah.
series.
which also has pretty good melee combat, and you can
Yeah,
really feel
you,
that.
you can really feel the similarities between the two. So
Yeah,
like Dishonored is like a very much more refined but very very similar experience to Dark Messiah.
yeah, because like Dark
Only more
Messiah,
narrow.
you can be very creative with how you approach situations,
Yeah.
and that's what I loved about Dark Messiah as well. I mean, just the fact that like you have this. Okay, so for those of you who played Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you remember how cool the Spartan kick was. That's probably the most used ability in the entire game. Hilarious ability. But Dark Messiah also has a Spartan kick, and you can at any time just press F and you kick, and if you hit your enemy unaware, you can kick them into spike traps, off cliffs, into other like hazards where like breaks pillars so they get squashed by geometry. You can push them into
Mhm.
any kind of traps. It's so fucking hilarious. It's
And
a
it's yeah, that's a fucking Leonidas kick. That one is, it's really powerful. They go
yeah.
flying. The physics are a little bit off, but that's the part of the fun in
Yeah,
this game.
it's off in the best way. I mean, it's the
Yeah,
source.
right. Yeah.
It's the
It,
same one you get in Half Life 2, I believe. The
mm,
physics as well.
yeah, I think it's the same. And so the premise of the game, you walk around, progress the story. You're a wizard's apprentice, basically. Uh, you use spells, you use ranged weapons like bows and magic, and you can combine and do all sorts of fun stuff. But the thing is that the point Steph kind of alluded to here is that you can choose a lot of different ways to kill your enemies and dispose of them, which is not necessarily kind of hack and slashing through them. You can be very creative. There are a lot of environmental hazards that you can activate, and you can utilize spells. Electrify water.
Oh yeah,
You can use fire magic and or fire weapons on like lantern oil or oil barrels or something like that, and they explode and burn. And
and you can freeze a patch on the ground when they come running at you, and then they face plant.
that never gets old. So you can kind of like a Sub-Zero Mortal Kombat kind of type of thing. You can make a little patch of ice on the ground, and your enemies will slide,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they can fall off cliffs. They can fall to their death in like a bottomless pit or something.
It's a
It's
lot of
really,
fun.
really, yeah, it's really, and they were so creative, even though it's a bit clunky. You need to get the feel of it to perfect kind of, and you never really know if you're gonna get it.
Yeah,
Sometimes the enemies they just run past the patch of ice that you placed so
yeah.
meticulously, and it's actually a really hard game as well. You can really get your ass handed to you.
Especially by the orcs.
Yeah, the orcs, they're so tough, and it's like since the game is a little bit clunky and these are hard enemies, if you kind of mismanage a little bit and then you're a little bit unlucky with kind of the way the engine works, then you can get your ass really handed to you.
True.
But then
Um,
again, it's so easy to kind of exploit the system. For instance, a good way to exploit the system is to light a dead enemy on fire
yeah.
and like use them like a roadblock, which is hilarious. And you can also use telekinetic abilities, magic to lift up objects, and you can
Yeah.
lift up, enemies and throw them at other enemies, and yeah, hilarity ensues.
Yeah. I mean, um, I think this game also it encourages you to exploit it as well, because especially when the orcs are introduced, they come in like packs, so there's always like almost always more than one, and they are quite overpowering. You can take down like one or two at a time maybe if you pick your shots and you're good at the system, but you're gonna be at a disadvantage because you're not like all powerful. So you're
You know,
supposed to kind of like be crafty and just like trick your enemies, like kick them off ledges, be a little bit cheap about it, fight dirty.
Yeah.
And there's so many obvious traps they put there. Like, hey, you see this stack of barrels up on this platform with a boarded up kind of like pillar that you see has been repaired. You might
Yeah.
want to
Like,
kick them into this, and then you do, and it breaks, and they just like get squashed by the by the barrels or whatever object is up there. It's so good. It's so funny.
yeah. I think that kind of game design is a little bit unique uh to that genre, right? It's like you have so many possibilities. Even if you don't use that little, setup trap for the enemy, you can still create your own little trap. You can, like I said, make yourself a barricade of burning corpses and stand behind and kind of try to push the enemy out of a cliff or something from that vantage.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So kind of steer them towards the cliff with the burning barricade and then push them off or kick them off. And the game is really good at kind of motivating or encouraging that kind of play style,
Yeah,
which is really, really unique almost, I feel. I think that some games did this well, um, in the after Dark Messiah, but I think they were really, really early on with the large amount of creativity
definitely. And also
in
the fact that
combat.
it was a melee first person
Hmm.
game. Like the combination, the package you get here is unique, I feel. And the the story isn't really that important in it. I feel it's like
No, no,
you're
it's not. It's
it,
not really gonna win any prizes.
yeah, I mean, you kind of get
It's
these.
okay.
Yeah, it's like a standard kind of slightly dark fantasy in the Might and Magic universe, not the old universe, but the one that is like after Ubisoft got a
Yeah,
hold of the license. So it's more like if you ever played Heroes 5 and the orcs there, those are the orcs you'll meet in this game essentially, and
yeah,
the
yeah,
Cyclops and everything.
yeah. That's right. I never thought about that. That's right. It's the same kind of aesthetic on
Yeah,
the orcs.
yeah. So you'll essentially be fighting Heroes 5 units up close for the entirety of the game, and um but it also does have some. It's kind of like an excuse for you to go to a lot of different locales and face different types of fantasy enemies. But it's done really well. I think the enemy variety as well is pretty fun. You never know what to expect. Sometimes you'll meet highly trained combat gimps, those fucking goblins, and they can
Yeah.
mess you up. Other times you'll meet there's this, like, I first played this I think back in 2007 or something, and like I'm not a fan of spiders. I can usually deal with them in games, but the spiders in this game, fuck me, they are so disgusting.
Oh,
Like
they're
they're
horrible.
so
Yeah.
disgusting, and the place you fight them is like, well, eventually you get this cavern, but at first you're in this like ruins. You go underground, and there are these like holes in both the roof and the ground and stuff down to different levels, and they can just like crawl like suddenly up there or like from above and into your corridor and everything. And the way they do
Mm,
it, they just, oh, it's so fucking disgusting.
not good for your arachnophobia. That.
No. So yeah,
Oh yeah.
if you're arachnophobic, I recommend just find like for real though.
Farming sim or something.
Yeah, just or just find a level skip console command. It's a source game, so
Yeah.
it's easy to
It's a
find
source
a
game.
console like commands.
I mean, there are a lot of funny commands you can use also in this game.
Yeah,
That's like when you finish the normal playthrough, you can do like a clowny, more amped playthrough with no gravity and stuff like
yeah,
that.
exactly. And not to mention, there's this thing where I mean, there are RPG elements here, like you said, and like you have skill trees, right? So you
No.
can boost your skills in archery, stealth,
Yeah.
melee, and magic. But
Yeah, it's like combat, uh magic and misc basically.
yeah, yeah,
That's the
yeah,
three categories you can
yeah,
like choose from.
and
Uh
But the thing
but
with
they're
the
not
stealth,
balanced well at all. I
yeah,
feel. I remember I spec like some archery or something or
yeah,
stealth because I played as a rogue in World of Warcraft or something like that.
yeah,
And then I was like, yeah, okay, I'll try like a stealthy character. And that the system was not really equipped for that, so you were spotted really easily, or you never knew why you were spotted. But I think the sniping with the bow was really good.
yeah.
I think that I can remember that.
And the other thing here that's not very balanced is magic, because magic is a lot of fun and you have a lot of different interesting spells like we talked about earlier, so you can interact with the
Mm,
environment a lot. But the thing is, the amount of mana you have is so low, so you can cast
yeah.
like maybe one fireball every 2 months. It's like,
Yeah, it's really like that, and you have to kind of like run and hide
yeah,
to regain that because the mana bar is automatically refilling. Or you can
yeah,
use potions, but
yeah, but you have to chug them, and and they're not infinite, so
no,
it's
they're
like,
not infinite.
yeah. So mostly you'll be doing a lot of melee combat, to put it that way. You
Mm,
cannot do like a pure magic build or a pure archery, like these kind of
no,
things, if you're
no,
hoping
no,
for
no.
that.
That's
But
what I tried, and it didn't work.
yeah, but you can mix and match them and kind of emphasize a little bit more on one or the other. But you'll have to do a lot of melee. But I did realize, to like a small counter to your point about stealth not working, is that
Yeah.
if at least when you get a few points into it, into stealth and such, and if you get because there's items in this game as well, like that you can pick up equipment, like different armor sets and different weapons that you can find, and some of them are off the beaten path. But if you get the assassin suit, I think it's called,
Mm,
it gives you like these some benefits that makes you almost invisible when you're in the shadows. So you can
yeah,
like,
right.
they won't see you at all unless they walk straight into you.
Like immersion breakingly stealthy.
Yeah, but in a good
Like
way, because it makes it very viable as a build. Because, and you use those
yeah.
daggers.
But I think that yeah, I think that this game you don't really care about that. Sometimes you
Yeah,
really do care that if you're standing like 1 meter behind like a small crate, and they're like, I wonder what that sound was. And they
yeah,
don't, they can't like turn their head and see this giant fucking wizard
yeah.
crouching behind a small crate.
Or as they
But
say in the game with the voice acting, it's like, "Yeah, who's there?"
yeah, that's
It's
more like
that kind of voice
it.
acting.
but I think that this game really you don't really care about that because you're more there to have fun, and the
Oh
challenge
yeah,
comes in the combat. So when you're eventually discovered, which you will be discovered when you pop the first 2 or 3 stealth kills,
oh yeah,
then the hard times are coming, and you need to kind of so it balances out. It's not like overpowered, even though we have like this amazingly good stealth suit.
yeah. But you can still play as a rogue, in the sense that if you're also like, I mean, it's perfectly viable to use the daggers, for example.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
hide some in
I think I
stealth, you
used
pick
the
off some
daggers on
enemies
the
in
first.
stealth, yeah, and then you just pop out with the daggers and finish the rest off. You can do that.
Yeah.
But you can't just
True.
sneak up on everybody and take out everybody stealthily, I think. Of course,
No,
maybe I say so and somebody has done it, but
of course somebody's
it's
done it.
not very easy, and it's not like
It's not.
it's
And you do get to like corridors where there are a heap of enemies,
yeah.
where it's like you kind of get what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to use like a very clever spell or something to kill a lot of them,
Hmm.
or maybe like an environmental hazard. And in those kind of situations, you really can't stealth through easily. You know.
That's true. And but the thing is, like, this game is still very good at making you feel like a badass. If you
Mhm.
nail an encounter with some enemies, you just like fuck them up. You just perfectly on the fly adapt and like push them into environmental hazards, take out one after the other. Everything flows so smoothly. You feel really good
Mhm.
afterwards. It nails that. I love that part of
It
it.
yeah, I that's what I really, really loved about this game. You feel so fucking powerful when you
Yeah.
kill someone.
Yeah, oh
and it's
yeah.
and it's quite brutal as well. But there's like an adrenaline meter
Yeah,
that fills when you fight, and when you get it to like maximum capacity, you can have like a rage activate,
yeah, it's like an
for a
instant
short amount of time.
finisher. Yeah,
Yeah, you'll and you can use that on like spells and melee weapons and
yeah. I think
whatever you want.
every weapon or every weapon type in the game and every spell has its own finisher. I think,
Yeah,
which is fun. Like for example, I remember the swords will like chop off limbs, like chop off arms or heads, and it will be
yeah,
slow
heads.
motion, and it's really cool. And but the spells
That's really
also,
cool. Like,
you
yeah,
remember
they're
the
really powerful.
yeah, like for example, the
That
kinesis. Normally, you would only be able to lift objects, but if you have the adrenaline full, you can just pick up a living enemy and just like fucking
yeah,
fling him outside the map. It's so
yeah,
fucking
that's
funny.
and you feel so powerful when you do that.
Yeah.
And also the electrocution or the lightning spell.
Mm.
It's like fucking Palpatine
Yeah.
Senate magic, you know? It's
Exactly.
like barbecuing up some orcs.
And it's kind of funny to explore with the different items or like the different spells and weapons to see what they do when you get that. Because, for example, what I didn't know is that there's this spell called Weaken, which makes enemies weaker, obviously, but it makes them like take more damage and also hit for less. But
Yeah.
if you use Weaken on them when your adrenaline is full, you shrink them, so they become like tiny, and they
Seriously?
run around with like these distorted voices. And if you step too close to them, you automatically crush them under your boot. They splat.
Oh my god. I never did that.
Yeah, it was so funny. I just discovered it purely on accident. It was fucking funny. So these things, it's fun to discover. Combat is really
Yeah,
fun.
I think that they nailed it with that freedom, and the variety really gives the game a kind of a replayable side to it,
Oh
where you
yeah,
can experiment and have fun. And even today, like you said, even though this is an old game, it's still viable, and you can still have a great time playing it, I
oh
think.
yeah, and it's on Steam. I'm looking at it right now. It's like $5 or $6 as of speaking. So,
Jesus, that's yeah, it's low.
but yeah, and it's really worth trying. Especially if you try Dishonored and you like the gameplay there, you're gonna appreciate this. Like you kind of know what you're getting into here as well because it's a high fantasy, cheesy but really fun balls to the walls version of Dishonored with less stealth and less gloom.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was alluding to earlier. It's you can really I never thought about that, but you can really feel how Dishonored is like, an distillation of this game.
Hmm.
They've taken like some elements that work really well and just refined them
Yeah,
and kind of defined the role of the protagonist a little bit more. Like, he's really stealthy and stuff like that, but you can really feel where they this was like the experiment that resulted in
Dishonored. Yeah,
Dishonored. Yeah.
and I mean even the one of the first swords you find in this game in Dark Messiah is like a
Mm.
short sword, and it reminds a lot of Corvo's knife in Dishonored, like a sort of
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
very long knife for a short sword kind of thing, where you can deflect and you can cut with it. And it's very similar
Mm.
how it handles, and you'll feel right at home.
I want to play Dishonored.
Yeah, maybe I'll get back. I never played the second one, so I need to get on that one as well.
No, neither did I.
I hear it's good and it's hella cheap, like all the time. It's always on sale, and I think I got it for
On
free on
Dishonored?
PS4.
Yeah, yeah, but was it? How long was that? The release of that
Not that long ago, I think.
ago?
Let me see. Dishonored 2
Let's
should
look
be
it
a
up.
couple of years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Dishonored.
It's not so cheap right now. I see, but on PS4 it was free with PS Plus. It came out 2016.
2016. Jesus, that's 4 years.
Well, it doesn't feel like
Okay.
4 years.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we inspire ourselves. That's good.
Oh yeah. So anyway, like TLDR for this game, hella good. It's a
Yeah,
really underrated game, and I'd say, I mean, there's really no excuse. Pick it up, try it, enjoy it, and indulge in your sadistic tendencies.
yeah, that because this game, if you like to be a little bit of a sadist, torture your enemies and blow them up with magic, this is the game for you. Um, yeah. So, Steph, what have you been up to lately? Why did you, or why have we been postponing making episodes this
Uh,
last week?
well, to be honest, for my case, one was that we spent some time getting it on other platforms,
Yeah,
but
you've been doing you've been doing some work.
yeah. Well, and now it is available on others. I need to get into the iTunes thing more. But for otherwise, it's more like the place I work in is quite seasonal, and because
Mm.
everybody is doing a domestic vacation this year,
Hmm.
it's how to say, it's so crowded where I work right now.
Yeah, because it's a very popular area for cabin owners.
Oh fuck yeah, and it's there's so many, and this is the thing. You would think that people still worried a little bit about social distancing, but no. If you're in vacation mode, like social distancing just go fuck all. Like
Yeah.
nobody cares if anyone has had the Rona in my store on the times when I've worked the past like week and a half, then that means I'll also get the Rona for sure. Because people
Mm.
will step like literally 30 centimeters from your face and ask you questions. They would come with the receipts and be like, "Hey, take a look at this," and they'll come like right up in your face. So you have to like take a deliberate step back and like, "Hey, stretch out your arm. Like, how about you give it here? I'll take a look at it myself, so we can keep the distance." And he's like, "Oh, it's just like, oh, we're happy we can do vacations now. Fuck social distancing. What's that?" So I'm really
Yeah, I
worried that
mean,
we're gonna have a resurgence.
I think we're gonna have a small resurgence. I mean, people are. It's like that in Norway everywhere. I feel people are just acting like the coronavirus was, a thing of the past or
Yeah,
just something they heard of once.
yeah, and it just seems like all right, we cannot travel, and of course, a lot of jobs are still not, or like companies are still not up and running again. But in terms of like socializing and these things, it seems like it's just people are like, all right, they let loose a little bit on the regulations, so now there's no regulation.
I don't know. It's actually a little bit scary to see how like that development. But I think that people are they're just so effing tired and sick of hearing of like coronavirus news and when the kind of restrictions were lifted a little bit, they were kind of falling very very neatly back into their old pattern of behavior.
Yeah,
They're like, okay, it's over now, so now we're just ourselves again.
exactly, and it's worrying.
But yeah, it is worrying. But luckily, we haven't seen any kind of spike in case numbers yet.
Yeah, knock on wood.
So yeah, knock on wood. I mean, we've been exceptionally lucky in Norway, I think, with the corona situation.
Yeah, largely we do, but I mean, of course, we have a low population density, and we have
Mm,
well, a low population as well. I mean, like
mm.
essentially, we are, what are we now? 7 million ish.
Yeah, and very, very geographically separated as well. Not only is the density low, but it's physically separated from like by mountains and
Yeah,
large kind of obstacles in nature.
I mean, if you imagine, we have a similar size of country as Japan, but they have like what 120 million, and we have 7. So
Yeah.
very few people spread over a lot of land, so that helps, of course.
Mm.
But still, seeing how it is in the store I work at these days, I'm still worried, and I'm trying to
Yeah.
take all the precautions I can, but it's scary, man. It's you can't avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't avoid it, but you can see, like, in the United States right now, because of the riots and stuff like, and the political situation. I mean, they're not talking about Corona, like
No,
but it's still really ravaging the country, and it still has a large effect.
yeah, true.
It's just that it's not in the news anymore.
How about your workplace though?
Yeah, we're almost back to normal. We can do like all the regular types of treatment
Mm,
on the patients, but we still have to use like a very strict hygiene regime. We need to use a visor and two types of like mouth visors or shields, whatever they're called in English.
yeah.
Do you know what that's called? I don't really know what it's called, but it's the what? Come on, Steph. What is that called? We need to know that because come on,
Uh,
what is it called? A Minbin.
like just a face mask.
Face mask. Yeah. Okay. So face mask. That's a good. So we need to use a double face mask.
Yeah,
And which one of them has to be like the N3 or whatever it's called. It's
M3.
like
Yeah.
a yeah, it's the most kind of impermeable one.
Hmm.
And then you use like a regular one on top of that, and then a visor, like a plastic, really large one. But we are exempt from using like we had to use this large kind of coat that the surgical coat,
Ah, I see. I
but
see.
we can use like regular clinical clothes now, which we do, wash on like 100 degrees
Yeah,
every day. So it's like it's not really spreading the disease, I guess, if you can avoid touching your clothes while you're treating the patients.
but how many days a week do you work these days?
I do work a full week, but it's like it's not filled up,
Yeah.
but it could be like that in regular times as well.
Mm,
Not all days are full. Sometime you sometimes you work like from 8 to like 5, and sometimes you work from 8 to 3. It's you never know. It's like, yeah,
really.
sometimes the patients arrive and sometimes they don't. So then you drink some coffee and you don't make any money.
Yeah, exactly. Oh boy.
That's how it is. But yeah, it's basically back to normal except from all the stuff we have to wear. It's actually quite, uh it's quite hard to have to treat patients with all that gear, because I do use loops as well, which is
Yeah.
like a type of glasses with and sight enlarged or optic focus,
Yeah.
um, and it has light on them as well. And with all this gear, it really makes your head heavy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you it strains your neck, strains your shoulders to work like that. But what are you gonna do? It's back in COVID.
Yeah. Fucking COVID. Well, in any case, for you 1.5 listeners out there, we hope you're still
Mm.
staying healthy, and let's hope that this is. Let's hope we don't have to deal with this shit for too much longer. So,
Let's hope it goes away.
but in the meantime,
Any
try the
Stay
games.
human.
Yes,
Yeah.
close
Try
it
the
up.
games and stay humid.
Stay dank.